Hi everyone, so I'm back again with another tutorial. So this is tutorial sheet 3 question 4. So we're going to start with this first question here, and when you look at the first question here, when you look at it very well, actually all the questions here, when you look at them very well, you discover that these questions are in the form of a quadratic equation, which is always written in the form ax squared plus I'll say plus or minus bx plus or minus bx, and then another plus or minus c. So this is the form of a quadratic equation, and when you look at all these questions, they are written in this form. So this is my a, the coefficient of x squared is a, the coefficient of the coefficient of x is b, and then the constant c, which is 5 in this question. So we're going to start. So the formula that I'm going to be using, I'll be using the quadratic formula, because I know that the quadratic formula can solve all the questions as long as it's in the form of this. It's sometimes also called the general formula. So the general formula says when you want to find the roots of x, or the values of x, you say negative b, and then plus or minus the root of, and then b squared here minus 4 ac, then everything divided by 2a. So this is the way the question is. So I'm going to identify from this question, I'm going to identify which one is my a, which one is my b, which one is my c. So according to this question, the coefficient of z squared is 1. So my a, where there is a, I'm going to be putting 1. The coefficient of z here is negative 4. So where there is b, I'm going to be putting negative 4. And then 5 here as our constant is going to be my c. So in this question, I'll write it this side. So negative b, what is my negative b? Or what is my b there? My b is negative 4. So where there is b, I'll put negative 4 in the question. And then I'll put plus or minus here. Then the root of, I'll put again negative 4 there, since there is b squared. So I'll put negative 4 squared. And then minus 4. Remember, where there is a, I'm putting the coefficient of z squared, which is 1. And then where there is c, this is 4ac. So where there is c, I'm putting the constant, which is 5 in this case. So my constant is 5 there. And then everything over 2a. My a is 1. Let me also simplify this side. So negative times negative 4, I'll get a positive 4 there. Then plus or minus the root of, when we find the square of 4, we'll discover that our answer will be 16. So 16 minus, and then 4 times 5, your answer will be 20. Then everything over 2 times 1 is 2. I'll proceed down here. So my x, sorry, this time we're not finding x, we're finding z. We're not dealing with x. So my z you take the variable that is in the equation. So this time around I'm finding z, I'm not finding x, sorry. So z is equal to, I'll get that 4, then plus or minus, then the square root of 16 minus 20, I'll get negative 4 as my answer, and then over 2. So this one can also be written as 4 plus or minus the square root of this negative 4, we can write it as the square root of 4 times the square root of negative 1 over 2. So remember what we said in the first question there, question 1 in this tutorial sheet. If you have watched it, we said the square root of negative 1 is nothing but I. So while it's the square root of negative 1, I'll be putting I. While the square root of negative 1, I'll be putting I. So I'll write 4. The square root of 4 there is 2. So plus or minus 2, and then times this square root of negative 1 is nothing but I. It's supposed to be I, not J. It's nothing but I. Then everything over 2. Then finally my answer will be 4 plus or minus, oh sorry, not 4. When I divide the 2 into 4, I'll get my answer to be 2 plus or minus 2 into 2, I'll get I like that. 2 into 2I, I'll get I. So this is my answer. In short, my Z is now going to be 2 plus I, or Z is equal to 2 minus I. So these are my answers for question 4.1. We move on to question 4.2. So question 4.2 is saying 2z squared. So 2 is saying 2z squared plus 2z is equal to negative 5. So this question, the first thing you just need to do is to arrange it. Let it be in this form. You make sure that it is in this form for you to use the quadratic formula. So meaning, in short, you're just taking this negative 5 this side. So when you take this that negative 5 that side, it will just it will just be like this. It will be 2z squared plus 2z then plus 5 is equal to 0. So this is the one now that from which you're going to get your A, your B, and your C. You put them there and then find the answers and find the final solutions. So we move on to question 3. For question 3, that is iz squared minus z plus I. So 3 is saying, I z squared minus z, let me just confirm, plus, there is a plus somewhere, okay, there's a plus here, is equal to 0. So here again you identify which one is your a. So my a here is I, which is just the coefficient of z squared. Then my b, my b there will be -1, and then my c will be positive I. My c is nothing but positive I. My c will be positive I. So we now insert them in the formula. Our formula, as we all know, to say it's going to be z is equal to -b plus or minus the root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So our negative b there, our b there will be, our b there is -1, so I'm just putting -1 there, then plus or minus the root of my b squared will be -1 squared minus 4. What is my a? My a is I. And then my c is also I. Then everything over 2a. So my a is I. So I'll put 2a there. So my a is I. And then z is equal to, just simplify that now, negative times -1, I'm getting a +1, plus or minus the square root of the -1 squared is +1. Then we check, okay, let me just write it, -4, this is I times I, it will be I squared. So I times I will be I squared over 2 times I is 2I. So now we can proceed. So this is 1 plus or minus the root of, this is 1 minus 4. Remember what we said. What is I squared? I squared, we said I squared is equal to the root of -1 times the root of -1. I squared is nothing but I times I. So when we talk of I squared, we're just simply referring to the root of -1 times the root of -1, which will give you your answer to be -1. So meaning while there is I squared, we can put -1 here. While there is I squared, we put -1, then over 2I. So this one can also be simplified further to be 1 plus or minus the root of 1. Then we say 1 minus, this -4 times -1, you get a +4 over 2I. So our z will now be equal to, this is 1 plus or minus 5, the root of 5. So this is going to be 1 plus or minus the root of 5 over 2i. Now remember, this I is nothing but, so I, we know to say I is equal to the square root of negative 1. We know that I is equal to the square root of negative 1. So this, putting this I here is just the same as putting the square root of negative 1 in the denominator, which implies that, okay, let me just write it. So 1 plus or minus the root of 5. So this one is just the same as writing 2 root negative 1. Remember what we were doing last semester, rationalizing the questions. So when you want to rationalize this, you're going to multiply everything by the special one, which is the same as negative 1, which is just the same as the root of negative 1 over the root of negative 1. You see? So this is what is going to happen. This times this, you get negative 1. The root of negative 1 times the root of negative 1, you get your answer to be negative 1. So let me first write the denominators. So I'm going to have 2, and then in the brackets there will be negative 1 there, and then from there you're going to have this. We know that the root of negative 1 is nothing but I. So multiplying this throughout there is just the same as multiplying I throughout. So when I multiply this I times 1, I'll get I. When I multiply this I times root of 5, I'm going to get plus or minus the root of 5 I, like that. And then I can proceed. So 2 times negative 1, I'm going to get negative 2. So I'm going to have I plus or minus, let me put this I in front, I root 5 over negative 2. Yeah, like that. So my final answer is, let me see first the form they want us to leave our questions. Okay, if not specified. So my final answer is nothing but z is equal to, so my z is going to be either I plus root 5 over negative 2, or I minus the root of 5 over, so this is z as well, z is equal to over negative 2. So these are the solutions. Yeah, so these are the answers. So these are the answers for question 3. We move on to question 4. Let me check first how it is. Okay, so question 4 here, your A is going to be 1. Your A is going to be 1. Okay, let me just do this. Okay. So question 4, your A is going to be 1, and then your B is going to be 1 minus I, and then your C is going to be negative 3I. So I think the best way I can solve this question, let me not solve question 4, but let me solve question 6. Though it's supposed to be 5, but they made a mistake, they wrote 6. So I'm going to solve this last one, because once you know how to solve the last one here, you can't fail to solve question 4. So it's 3z squared, then 2 minus 3I. So this is the last question. I'll also denote it the same way they've written it to be question 6. So it's 3z squared 3z squared plus 2 minus 3I plus 2 minus 3I and then there is negative 1 minus 3I. Negative 1 minus 3I is equal to 0. Alright. So, the first thing that we need to do in this question, first, we identify which one is our A. So our A here is going to be 3, which is just the coefficient of Z squared, and then the coefficient of Z is our B. So our B is equal to 2 minus 3I. Then our C is our constant here. So our C, we get everything that remains, including the signs negative 1, then negative 3I. That is our C. So now we can start plugging them in the equation. So our Z is given by a negative B, and then plus or minus the root of B squared minus 4AC, everything over 2A. So this one we now put in our values. Our negative B, our B is this. So we say our negative B, we open brackets, we put this negative outside, this one we put it outside, and then we open the brackets and put our B there. Then plus or minus the square root of B squared. So B squared, B is 2 minus 3I. B squared, the square root of B squared minus 4, and then my A is 3, 4A. Then my C is negative 1, negative 3I. This is my C. Then everything over 2A. Alright, so we can now proceed from there. So I'll write my Z there. Z is equal to, I multiply it through with this negative in the brackets there, so to be negative 2 plus 3I outside. Then I can put them in brackets for security reasons, and then I'll open this square root symbol. So I'll begin to multiply this. So this simply means I'm multiplying, this is multiplying itself 2 times. Excuse. So this is going to be like this. In other words, this means 3I, and then like that. like that. So this one is not a difference of two squares. Don't make a mistake to take these two and put it on top of these two, and these two you put it on top of that three. No, don't make that mistake. So this simply means this same thing which is in the bracket is multiplying itself 2 times, like that. So I'll start multiplying these two, multiply with everything there. So 2 times 2, and then I'll get 4 there, and then 2 times negative 3i, I'm going to get this is negative 6i. 2 times negative 3i, I'm getting negative 6i. And then I'll come to this negative 3i times 2, I'll get another negative 6i. And then negative 3i times negative 3i. Remember, we're going to have at some point I squared, because there's I times I. So which is going to give us a negative number, a negative 1. And then a negative 1 times this positive 9 that we're going to have. We're going to have negative 9. Then we put a minus there. So this is 3 times 4. We're going to have a 12. So let me do this. Brackets are very important. So this is going to give us 12, and then open brackets, negative 1 minus 3i. Then everything over 6. We multiply 2 times 3 there, the denominator you get 6. We write our z again here. So our z is going to be, sorry for that, we write that negative 2 plus 3i plus or minus the square root of so 4 minus 9, 4 negative 9, you get negative 5. Then negative 6i, you get negative 12i. Like that. Then this negative 12 times negative 1, you get a positive 12. You get a positive 12. Then this negative 12 times negative 3i, you get negative 36i. Then everything over 6. So our z is going to be negative 2 plus 3i in brackets, then plus or minus, we pair the like terms there in the third. So negative 5 plus 12, you get a positive 7, and then negative 12 minus 36, you get a negative 48i, negative 48i. Then everything over 6. So from here I think it is just a matter of splitting them. So this is supposed to be positive 36. So that when we add there, let me just erase. When we add the 2, you get is 24. Yeah, positive 24. Let me just remove this. So you get positive 24i. So from here it's just a matter of splitting them. You split your z is equal to -2 plus 3i plus you can put them in brackets if you want, the root of 7 plus 24, then everything over 6, or z is equal to -2, sorry, not plus this time, oh yeah, it's a plus there, plus 3i, then in brackets minus the root of 7 plus 24 I. There's also supposed to be I this side. So 24i over 6. So these are the answers for the last question there. Thank you very much for watching the video. So make sure that you don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you next time in the next video. Shalom, shalom. Alright, yeah, wait. So if you have any questions, you can send to this number here on the screen. Then don't forget to subscribe, just as I earlier on said. See you.